want to go a little bit deeper now into the details of this 28-point peace plan for Ukraine and Russia and try to get a deeper assessment of it all. And joining me now to unpack the plan is Dr. J. Michael Waller. He's a senior analyst for strategy at the Center for Security Policy. Dr. Waller, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to be with you.
All right, let's kind of go through as much as we can of these 28 points. Let's start with the ones, I think it'd be good. Let's start with the ones that we are likely that both sides could potentially agree without a fuss. What are we looking at there?
I really don't know where they can agree. This is something that's going to take a lot of leadership to force these both parties to accept. And Ukraine is going to have to accept loss of its territory. I mean, that was a given from the very beginning. On the other hand, I think it's premature to be demanding this because Russia can't sustain itself a whole lot longer. And so the rush to have a peace agreement by Thanksgiving, I think, is a danger.
Yeah, well, that being the case, you just get brought up two powerful points. It sounds like we're probably not going to see this come to fruition. So if there are no points of little to no contention, what are the more controversial or contentious points that we could potentially see even more pushback than the ones that you just described?
I think one of them, it's a sort of the old State Department sick think, which is the idea of security guarantee. We already had two security guarantees for Ukraine, one in 1991 when the Russian government formally agreed to respect Ukraine's borders at that time, and another one from 1995 where the U.S. and Britain and Russia all agreed that if Ukraine would unilaterally disarm its nuclear arsenal, we would all ensure Ukraine's borders. There's no treaty commitment to it, but these are just assurances. So there are more assurances being offered, and certainly if I was a Ukrainian, I wouldn't buy it for a second.
So what kind of reactions at this point are coming forth? Are you hearing anything?
Right now, people are looking at it. It's pretty predictable of what's being heard. The Ukrainians don't like it. A lot of Russian opponents of Putin don't like it. They view it as a Russian-authored plan that was given to President Trump's envoy Witkoff and then recycled into a Trump plan. I don't know that to be a fact, but that's just what I'm hearing from some really high-profile opponents of Putin and very pro-U.S. and even very pro-Trump Russian opposition figures. So if that's the case, I don't see where a lot of these plans were cooked up in the State Department or on the U.S. side. A lot of them really do look like Russian talking points.
Oh, well, that's a very interesting thing here. So when we look at all this, obviously President Trump successfully was able to work through a peace deal with Israel and Hamas, at least successfully to this point. Things seem to be at least moving in the right direction. And this 28-point plan now for Russia and Ukraine, perhaps kind of similar, maybe not. Describe that to us. Are these basically similar, or are they different? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, they're different. They're two nation states, and they're two, Ukraine had been controlled by Moscow for so many years, so they're neighbors and they're established nation states, as opposed to Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. So you've got, there's not a real good comparison there. This is an imperial grab by Vladimir Putin to take territory of, first it was supposed to be Russian-speaking people in eastern Ukraine. That was his 2014 invasion. And then to take all of Ukraine, which was his attempt this time around. But it's just an imperial grab. Putin's got no legitimacy for it. I think his staying power is short. And I think while it's important to have some kind of peace agreement in place, don't give the Russians everything they ask for.
So do you think at the end of the day that this is a plan that potentially both sides can find common ground, or do you think at the end of the day we go back to the drawing board?
I think at the end of the day, go back to the drawing board, because every time there's a peace agreement idea being raised, the Russians come in and start attacking civilian targets left and right. I don't see how any kind of peace agreement can be solid until they they not only stopped doing that, but those responsible for it are held accountable. None of that is mentioned anywhere in the peace agreements.
So until that's dealt with, this thing, I don't see how it goes anywhere. Is there any way, do you think, to pull the reins in and to cause Putin to stop that kind of behavior?
There are ways to squeeze Russia harder and squeeze Putin harder, kick out a lot of the elements that are supporting him domestically, where the Trump administration has been trying to do that in some areas, but I think it's showing too much anxiety. When you let on too much that you're really desperate for a peace plan, then others are going to mess with you and manipulate you to their advantage. And I think that's part of the position that the U.S. is finding itself in now.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Dr. J. Michael Waller, Senior Analyst for Strategy at the Center for Security Policy. I appreciate your input on this incredibly important discussion. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving.